When it comes to hot hatches, the Honda Civic Type R has been holding on to the title as the king ever since Honda brought this nameplate to America back in 2017. Now, in that time frame, enthusiasts and the competition have really stood up to take notice just how good the legendary Type R is, which is why for 2023, Honda is introducing an all-new version of the Type R. This is known internally as the FL5, and you can see from the exterior styling, it's all new, but also still a little bit aggressive, yet more mature. Under the hood, it has more power, courtesy of a massaged version of the 2-liter VTEC turbo engine that's legendary, and the interior gets the all-new tech interface from the 11th generation Civic. So as you can see, this week, we're gonna live with the Type R for a full week. We're gonna put it through our usual battery of tests, and at the end of this video, we're gonna find out, has Honda managed to create an all-new Type R that can continue to hold on to its crown as the king of hot hatches? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the exterior styling, let me go ahead and pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this vehicle. Now, this has the legendary engine in the tuner world. It's known internally as the K20C1, and Honda has fortified this motor with more power this year thanks to hardware and, of course, software changes. Now, underneath the hood, which, by the way, the hood is aluminum and it is very lightweight compared to the previous generation, you have a massaged version of the 2-liter turbo VTEC engine with direct injection. It has a turbocharger, a single-scroll turbocharger that's pumping in up to 25.2 pounds of boost pressure, allowing this vehicle to now produce 315 horsepower. That's up 9 horsepower from the prior generation, and 310 pound-feet of torque. That's up 15 pound-feet of torque compared to the 2021 Type R. It all goes out through a one-choice only 6-speed manual transmission, so Honda is saving the manuals, and this vehicle remains front-wheel drive with a dual-axle front suspension, of course, a mechanical limited slip differential to help put that power to the pavement. Honda doesn't claim a 0 to 60 time, but we got mid-5 seconds in our last testing. We'll try it again here out in the real world. Fuel economy is rated at 22 in the city, 28 on the highway. Premium is going to be recommended to get that max power. It's not required, but you should put premium in. It has around a 12.5 gallon gas tank. You're looking at between 250 to maybe 300 miles of range on a full tank. This vehicle has a top speed of around 170 miles an hour, and as it sits, it weighs in at just under 3,200 pounds. Compared to the previous generation Type R, this is only about 100 pounds heavier, and it's only about, it's around 50 pounds heavier, and it's only about 100 pounds heavier versus a Civic hatchback with its 1.5 liter turbo and manual transmission. But closing the hood, let's go ahead and talk about the exterior styling, which, as you guys know, with this generation, Honda decided to go with a much more mature look, which I really appreciate, yet it's still also aggressive. It's very understated. I think this design is going to age better versus the FK8. Now, some of you who own the FK8 will probably disagree with me, and you say that yours looks better. However, design is always a subjective thing. Now, first things first, the hood has a functional heat extractor vent here. You can see this has also been tuned to allow better cooling into this vehicle, which is something that the old FK8 had a problem with. You can see the grille has the usual Civic grille with enlarged air intakes. It's got the red Honda emblem with the Type R badge here to the side. The headlights, you can see all Type Rs come standard with full LED headlights with LED daytime running lights. They're a reflector style housing, LED low and high beams. No fog lights on this generation, which is where I prefer the FK8. I really liked how it had fog lights. You can see you have some functional vents over there to the side. This massive front grille here with the large intercooler behind it. That's, again, allowing this vehicle to have better cooling capability versus the prior generation, which was a problem when that car first came out. When you took it on the track, it tended to overheat. Now, my tester here is in the hero color. This is called Championship White. It goes well with the black-red suede effect interior. And then moving around the side profile, you can see the Type R continues to only be available as a 5-door hatchback. And what's interesting about this car, its wheelbase is 107.7 inches long. Its overall length is just shy of 181 inches long. This is actually about 3 inches shorter than the regular Civic hatchback. I suspect it has something to do with the front and rear bumpers. Compared to the old Type R, this is about 1.5 inches longer in the wheelbase and in the overall length. At around 74.5 inches wide, this is also 3.5 inches wider than a regular Civic hatch. Now, looking at the wheels, you can see Honda decided to go smaller for this generation. You have a 19-inch wheel with a matte black finish, beautiful 5-spoke design. You have a 235/30 ZR19 Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tire. So this is a better tire versus the old Type R, which had a Continental Conti Sport 6. And then these are the same brakes from the old Type R. It's a 13.8-inch two-piece vented rotor with a 6 or 4-piston Brembo front caliper. With its red painted, it's a really satisfyingly strong brake feel and great braking performance. You also have the dual axle front suspension, all-independent suspension, and adaptive dampers. So again, great tech stuff for a car that is going to be daily driven as well on the street and on the track. Now you can see the mirrors are black painted. You have integrated turn signals. They are not power folding. Type R's still continue to not offer a sunroof. I do wish that Honda would offer a black roof on it or something. Some good contrast would be there. I like how, again, the pillars are all blacked out. And then looking at the rear here, this is where you're going to find probably the most aggressive angle of the Type R because of that wing on the back. This adds functional downforce. I also like the fact that Honda paints it black. It definitely doesn't stand out quite as much as the old Type R. You can see it actually has a rear window wiper. The taillights are an LED combination with an incandescent turn signal, LED brake lights. You can see it has blacked out badging here for the Civic and the Type R badge, the usual red Honda logo, of course, to show this is the special Type R. And then you can see, which the old Type R had a bunch of fake vents. These are still fake, but they're just a lot more tastefully restrained. But I also still love the rear splitter, the triple exhaust system. This is an active exhaust. You can see the center now is bigger versus the two outer pipes, which is opposite of the prior generation. Honda says they worked on the sound. Let's go ahead and fire it up. You can hear what it sounds like real quick. And while you guys have seen my video on the Integra Type S, which definitely sounds better, the Type R sounds okay. It definitely sounds better than the previous generation, but I imagine those of you who own this car and hear an Integra Type S, you might be green with envy when you hear that car. Now, opening up the cargo area, because this is a hatch, you can see it's very practical. You have 24.6 cubic feet of total storage space. You can see it still has this really interesting cargo cover where you can basically hide your stuff back here. You can look underneath the floor here. There's also no temporary spare, but you have an inflator kit and whatnot, so not much underfloor storage. If you fold down those seats, Honda doesn't say what the expanded cargo capacity is, but I'd say it's probably just under 50 cubic feet. So if you're going to use this as your only car, this is where the Type R continues to be one of the most practical out there in the segment. So now that we've talked about the exterior of the new Type R, let's go ahead and hop inside the interior and show you guys all the changes that Honda made for this new generation. You can see here is the key fob for the vehicle. This is the same fob that's on the new generation Civic and a lot of other new Hondas. You can see there's the red Honda logo there to remind you that you've got the special Type R. It has your usual buttons for lock, unlock. You can pop the trunk, although it's not a powered trunk, and also has a panic feature. This key, I like the size of it. It's slightly different versus the previous generation Type R, but you can see as you approach the door handle, it's a very traditional door handle. The vehicle does have an auto walk-away lock feature. So when I shut the door, I have the setting turned on, it'll lock the door as I walk away from the car. Or you could just touch that little ridge area here that'll lock the door, touch the back of the door handle here. You can see that will unlock the door for you. Now, as I open up the door, you can see, I hope you guys like red, because the red interior is the only color combination that Honda offers on this car, which it looks fantastic with the championship white, with the black, with the Sonic gray. I don't really love it with the Boost Blue or with the red. It's probably too much red. You can see the carpet is also red. That's really shocking. That was really shocking when I first saw it, but I love how Honda is adding some color to the interior. You can see the door panel has a soft touch injection molded plastic here, this silver painted door handle. This actually is a red LED lighting strip that lights up on both of the front door panels. It's nothing super special, it's just a red soft LED. Nice suede Alcantara here where your elbow would rest, and then the windows are one touch up down for the front, however not for the rear. You have really high quality switches and whatnot, hard touch plastic here, but you have a little bit of storage in the door pocket. Now you can see the seats adjust in 6 different ways, manual, height adjustment, no lumbar support, not heated seats as well. Would have liked to see Honda do that. And you can also see there are red seat belts, which is nice, but these seats are really aggressive, but they're comfortable and supportive at the same time, which is shocking. These are the best seats that you'll find in this segment. Now getting inside, you can see getting in the Type R is not bad. It's a low step in height, but once you're in these seats, I personally find them to be so fitting to my frame at 5'7". Shut the door, you can hear it has a nice solid sounding thunk. This is built on the same platform as the 11th generation Civic, but significantly stiffened. Now, it only comes with a manual with this really nice looking metal shift knob that will burn your hand or freeze your hand if you guys live in those extreme climates. But you can see here you have alloy sport pedals. Put the clutch in, start stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. And then the vehicle will start right up. It's got an all digital 10.2-inch display, which is also customizable. It has the traditional sound. It doesn't sound much when it first starts up. You can put it into plus R mode. You can see it gives you a unique display with a racing style tachometer. And then it has a pretty low rev limiter when you're stopped, just revving it. However, if you get the car moving at like 2 miles an hour, it does let go of the limiter and you can rev it all the way up to 7 grand. Now you can see the instrument panel, or the center stack here, has a 9-inch LCD touchscreen with the same software in the current generation Civic. It has wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. And you can see the screen looks a lot better. It's a good size. It's about an inch bigger versus the GR Corolla, but about an inch smaller than what's in the Volkswagen Golf R. You can see it's relatively easy to use, and it's relatively snappy and quick, although it's not the newest system in the Accord, which is Android Google based. The Type R also gives you this unique thing called Honda Log R, where it's basically like a software that allows you to track your lap times and whatnot. It shows your power meter and your usual important information. You also can change the color of the Type R that's in the center there, which is kind of cool. I have it obviously set to championship white. You can also put a G meter there. This will basically log all of your track times when you guys are on track. You can also do it to your smartphone as well, which is a really cool feature. This is something the Integra Type R or Type S does not have. Now you can see here, dashboard material is soft touch injection molded plastic. No heads-up display. That's something the Acura gives you. However, I do like the customizable display. The steering wheel, you can see, also is unique on the Type R. It's got really nice feeling leather. Obviously no paddles, it's a manual transmission. You have the red Honda emblem here. The horn sounds really puny. That's what I don't like about the Type R. The Integra Type S has a slightly different sound to the horn. You can see you have manual telescoping with a good amount of adjustability. Honda Sensing also comes standard. You can basically turn it on and off from over here and whatnot. This vehicle also has adaptive cruise control, which is definitely a nice touch. But it doesn't have full stop and go because, remember, it's a manual transmission. You have dual zone automatic climate control, which is nice. You have the same high quality vents with the hexagonal pattern in the actual dash vents themselves. You have a little placard here to show what build, I guess, your Type R is. There's a 12-speaker Bose stereo in this car, which sounds good. It sounds much better than the old 7-speaker premium system in the old Honda Civic Type R. You have a wireless phone charging pad here, but again, no heated seats. There's like a place here where there could be a button. That's something the Integra gives you. The manual, you can see, is one of the best manuals in the business. It's got really crisp, short throws. It just has a snickety-snick feel. Reverses all the way to the right and back. You can see there's your backup camera with 3 different views. You can see the graphics and quality is fine. This is pretty similar to what you find in the Integra Type S as well. Your drive mode selector is here. Push the button to go to plus R mode. There's also 3 other modes: individual, sport, and comfort. I personally like individual, where you can custom tailor things like the engine, the steering, suspension, the sound, the rev match, which you can turn on and off as well, and the gauge cluster. So again, I love the graphics here. It looks much better. I also like how they didn't put piano black plastic trim here. You have instead some alloy trim. That's something the Integra gives you. But I also prefer the shift knob in the Integra. You can see you've a nice little cup holder area over here with additional storage. Suede Alcantara here. You can open that up. You have a little bit of storage there. You have 2 USB-A ports. Surprised it's not a USB-C, along with an actual power outlet. The seats, like I said earlier, are super comfortable and supportive, even on the passenger side. No lumbar, no heated seats, but they look fantastic. Open up the glove box. You can see it's damped but not lined with felt. Has a pretty good amount of space in there. You have non-auto dimming rear view mirror. You do have LED map lighting in here. You can see without the sunroof, there's plenty of headroom space for those of you who need to like clear a helmet if you're really tall. But overall, the interior of the new Type R certainly has a great premium feel to it. It has a ton of space, some great tech features, but I really wish that Honda would have thrown in something like heated seats, or at leleast offer a sunroof. That's something that you can get in the Integra minus the sunroof. Now, moving to the back seat of the new Type R, you can see if you're going to sell this to your spouse as a family vehicle, this is where the Type R has more legroom versus some of its competitors. Honda says there's around 37.5 inches of legroom back here. What drives me nuts is the fact that the red suede effect look isn't actually carried over to the back seat. It just has a cloth black back seat with red stitching with the same red seat belts. You can see the door panels are hard touch plastic. No LED light strip here. It is padded over here where you'd rest your elbow, which is nice. But getting inside, you can see for somebody my height, It's relatively easy to get in. It doesn't have too much of a slanted roof. As I cut in and shut the door, you can see the red carpet carries through. There's a ton of legroom space. There's a hump here that intrudes on the middle passenger, but there's no middle seat. The Type R only continues to seat 4. No seat belt here. Instead, you just have cup holders. I would have liked to see an armrest here if you're going to take away the middle seat. No storage cubbies, but the seats look really cool. It reminds you you're in something special when you're back here. And then in terms of the headroom space, you can see pretty good amount of headroom space. So if you guys have taller friends, you can definitely fit 2 people back here. Although if you're attacking your favorite road or on a track, you definitely won't be held in place back here quite as well as the front seats. So here we are back in the ultimate Civic, the all-new FL5 Type R. And the last time I had a chance to drive this car, it was about 9-10 months ago when I was out in Sonoma, California, in Sonoma Raceway. But now that I have the car for a full week, we're gonna actually live with the car. We're gonna see what it's like on a daily basis. And I have to say, I also just spent about a week with the Integra Type S, like maybe 2 weeks ago I had that car. So my mind is still pretty fresh on that vehicle. However, we're gonna try to review the Type R objectively from its hot hatch competitors, not necessarily the more luxury-oriented Acura. But first setting off, this car just feels great. It feels basically like a track-ready car right off the factory showroom floor. I have it in its Plus R setting. It just feels like it's ready to attack your favorite back road. Now remember, this car is sadly still front-wheel drive, which isn't going to help it in terms of 0 to 60 performance. I think I got 5.3 the last time I tested it. And we'll see what we can get here. Now the best launch is going to be with the traction control on. We'll just barely add a little bit of throttle here. And that one was a little too little throttle, so let's try it again here. All right, 0 to 60 in 5.27 seconds. That is pretty similar to the time that I got in the Integra Type S in that same stretch of road. Now, you guys saw there's a good amount of wheel spin. We're on Michelin Pilot Sport 4S tires. The road, it's like 70-ish degrees outside, so it's not super warm, but it's also not super cold. It's kind of like the perfect temperature. These tires are going to need a little more temperature in them if you're going to get the better traction. But one thing I noticed about this car is once it does get some traction, it is fast. This thing definitely feels quick, and it's going to, surprise those of you who have not driven a really fast front-wheel drive car in a while. This thing definitely feels like it's on par with all of its competitors. Now let's try here on this stretch. Too much wheel spin there. You can see there's a lot of wheel hop. So again, there's a little demonstration. If you get the launch wrong there with too much wheel spin, it's going to seriously spin out the front tires and you're not going to be able to put the power down. The first run I got obviously was much better, but there was still a little bit of wheel spin. And if you do too little, as you guys saw, too little throttle, it's going to bog the engine out, and it's also going to feel kind of slow too. So a little bit of a tricky car to launch, but we'll take the 5.27 as our quickest time because that, I feel, is going to be similar to the Integra Type S. And it's also a little bit quicker than a manual Golf R that I tested pretty recently. Well, that was last year as well. The GR Corolla, if you do a really aggressive clutch stomp, can do it in 4.9 seconds. So sadly, the Type R is not the quickest in a straight line, but that's not the point of these hot hatches. You have to keep that in mind as well. Now, putting your foot down, you can hear this Type R is creating a fake engine noise. As I put my foot down here in Plus R mode, it's actually amplifying the sound through the speakers, and it sounds pretty good. I mean, that was one of the biggest problems with the previous generation FK8 Type R. It just sounded like a vacuum cleaner. It didn't sound good. Honda fixed that a little bit with the fake sound. However, it doesn't have the crackles and pops from the exhaust in the Integra Type S, and I really wish that this car did. It should have that sound from it, but the reason is because this car is built in Japan by the Japanese team, and it has to adhere to certain noise regulations, and that's the reason why it doesn't do the cracks and the pops, because it's missing that, or it still has the front resonator where it deletes that on the Integra, and the software is different as well. But put my foot down here. Oh God, this thing will literally roast the front tires. But I didn't feel any torque steer there, which is great. And that limited slip diff, the dual axle front suspension, it's all doing its job to put the power down, which is fantastic. And not much in terms of torque steer also. I mean, this car will torque steer slightly. It's like a comical minimal amount of torque steer if you guys really dip into the throttle and you're not holding onto the wheel, but it's not bad. I mean, it's nothing like the way that the Mazda Speed 3 did, or the Dodge Neon SRT4 or Caliber SRT4. Those just had horrible amounts of torque steer. I do like the rev match. I mean, when it rev matches for you automatically, I think it sounds good, and it does it really strategically and really perfectly. The timing's great. It also will rev match into first. That was something that Honda said that they have addressed in this new Type R, is they tweak the rev match a little bit. Oh God, this thing just wants to roast the front tires. But still, it's a lot of fun. I have to admit, this car is fun to drive. It sounds good. It just feels like it's on rails. This thing handles even more aggressively than all the other hot hatches that I've driven. The Golf R, the GR Corolla, the WRX, which is not a hot hatch technically, it's a sedan. This car still feels like the handling champ. It'll hold onto the skid pad, according to some publications, at like 1.04 Gs. It stops in like under 100 feet if you guys have the right, or if you have the right temperature in the tires and whatnot. But let's go ahead and get it out of Plus R mode. I actually have it set to my individual setting. This is with it in comfort for the suspension, sport for the steering, and then R for the engine and the sound. And I really like the way that, you know, Honda lets you address the, or set the individual settings, because it's kind of perfect for my daily driving where it's got a more comfortable ride. In Plus R, this car does ride a little bit firm. And in fact, compared to the previous FK8 Type R, I noticed that the ride in this car isn't quite as comfortable. It's a little bit more stiff-legged. It's a little bit more jarring, especially in Plus R. Now, when you switch it back into its comfort suspension, remember this has adaptive dampers, that's where the ride does become more agreeable. It surprises you because you've got this like really aggressive hot hatch and you can still daily drive it. It's still a relatively easy car to drive. Compared to the Golf R, this does ride a little bit stiffer. Compared to the GR Corolla, this rides a little bit more comfortably. I especially, however, love the seats in this car. These are the best seats, hands down, in the hot hatch segment. These are better seats than the Golf R, the GR Corolla, the WRX, and the Integra Type S. I much prefer these seats. I do wish that they were heated and offered power adjustment, but in terms of holding you in place aggressively, they're perfect. In terms of comfort, they're still comfortable, even on longer trips compared to, you know, some super aggressive. I mean, for how aggressive these look, they are very comfortable. That's kind of the most surprising thing about these seats. In terms of the fuel efficiency, this car is rated to get 22 in the city, 28 on the highway. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 23 mpg, which is pretty good actually. That's in mixed highway city driving. On the highway, this thing can actually do well over 30 miles to the gallon. I got 33, 34 mpg on a longer highway trip, which is really good. I mean, it beats the EPA numbers, which is 28. The sad thing, however, is you have a small 12.5 gallon fuel tank, so you're looking at around 250 to 300 miles of range on a full tank. Premium is going to be recommended. Be sure to put premium. This thing has a small gas tank, so don't cheap out and put regular in this car. It's going to lower the horsepower. But overall, if you plan to daily drive this car, the new Type R is certainly doable as a daily driver. You can still take it out to the track as well whenever you'd like. From the factory, it's going to be perfect for right off the factory showroom floor. If you guys need the all-wheel drive grip because you live in a colder climate, obviously this isn't going to work for you, but you could put some winter tires on this car and it should still be able to be driven in the snow. Again, you just have to be light on the throttle because it has trouble putting the power down. I would love to try this car out with the extra sticky Michelin Pilot Sport Cup 2 tires, which you can get from Honda as a dealer accessory. But overall, you know, this car, you know, wearing the title as the ultimate hot hatch, it's tricky because there are so many good options out there. I mean, to really compare them, I'd have to drive all the other three competitors back to back. But I can say that if you're looking for the ultimate front-wheel drive hot hatch, and this is also one of the lightest vehicles in this segment, this is definitely still a great option. I mean, the Elantra N is also another car you could compare it to. Veloster N's been discontinued. However, the Elantra, I'd say, is a class below this vehicle because it has less power. The dual clutch version of that car, however, is as quick, if not quicker, than this car, but this is faster than the manual. Just remember, manual is going to slow the car down overall. But for those of you who are coming from the old Type R and you're considering the new one, I'd say this is definitely worth the upgrade, especially if you guys want something that's a little bit softer in its looks and something that has better tech from the newer infotainment display. So I was lucky enough to be at the launch of the original FK8 Type R back in 2017. And I have to say, when I first got behind the wheel of the first Type R here in the US, I was absolutely blown away with the capabilities of that vehicle. Honda essentially proved that you don't need to have all-wheel drive to go fast or have fun in a hot hatch like this. And after spending some time with the all-new FL5 generation Type R, that tradition is still carried over into this new model. Except Honda has really married it with some more aggressive or more attractive attractive, but not quite as childish exterior styling. I personally love the design of this vehicle versus the prior generation. Some of you may disagree with me, and that's okay. Styling is always subjective. The interior, this is still one of the best interiors in this segment. It's got the best seats, in my opinion, in this segment, especially for those of you who need comfort, but also need something to hold you in place in the corners. The infotainment system in this car is fine. It's not super amazing. I mean, the GR Corolla has a smaller screen, but I think the software is better. The Volkswagen Golf R has a bigger screen, but the software is worse. So this kind of fits in the middle somewhere. I really hope to see the newer system that's Android-based from the Accord eventually make its way into the Civic. I don't like the fact that Honda kind of decontented this vehicle. For example, there are no power seats, there are no heated seats. I would like to see Honda offer a sunroof, but again, those are features that you can get on the Integra Type S minus the sunroof, which Acura sadly doesn't offer. The back seat and the trunk capacity is on the larger end, so if you need a more practical car, this has more space in the rear and in the trunk versus the Golf R and of course the GR Corolla, and it also has more than the WRX and the Elantra N because this is a hatchback. And in terms of the handling and ride quality, this thing strikes a near perfect balance. It is a little bit firmer riding than the old Type R, but I think for those of you who want something like this, you're going to find it to be still agreeable. And as you guys saw in the back rows, this thing is still a killer. Sadly, it still struggles to put the power down at times because it's front wheel drive, but if you can get the launch right, a low 5-second 0 to 60 time is going to be really quick for most people. But overall, really, if you're looking to get your hands on this vehicle, this is where the pricing comes into play, and that's where it gets a little bit tricky because this car starts at $43,785 plus destination. That is a $6,000 increase in the base price versus a 2021 Civic Type R. There was no 2022 version of this car. Essentially, Honda made this car the same price as the limited production Type R LE, the limited edition model that was Phoenix Yellow. That was like 45 grand. This car with destination is around $44,400, which again is a pretty good chunk of money. It's about the same price as a Golf R and of course a GR Corolla, but about $10,000 more expensive than an Elantra N or a Subaru WRX, although you can get a WRX GT to be in the mid $40,000 range. That's of course before you factor in the markups, because dealers of course are charging at least a 10 grand markup on these. So if you can find one of these at sticker, I definitely think it's worth the mid $40,000 cost. It's a little bit less expensive than the Golf R, but the Golf R also is a lot quicker with more luxury features. It's about the same price as a GR Corolla, which the Corolla is a smaller car. It's not quite as easy to live with on a daily basis, but you get that all-wheel drive system, which is fantastic. So really, there's no wrong choice in the hot hatch segment, but for those of you who don't need the all-wheel drive grip and you just want something that's really fast, but also really practical, I definitely recommend putting the new Type R at the very top of your list. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new FL5 generation Civic Type R. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.